Hello, and welcome back once again. Hope you're having another good day. I am. And it looks like the weather's going to be nice for a little outdoors activity today. For December, it's not bad. Anyway, welcome back. And in part 12, I began to reveal the arguments in support of the thesis that the Earth was settled in ancient times, 4 million years ago, maybe not. The time frame is the weakest part of the argument. And we've already proceeded up this road less traveled, or perhaps never before traveled. And today I would like to elaborate on it. Now, just to refer back to the high points, I made the case that human beings are alien to this world. We are an alien life form. We have nothing, absolutely nothing, in common with the natural creatures of this earth. And one of the main differences that we have is our preoccupation with the cosmos. Consider the enormous volume of resources which we have invested in exploring the stars. And why are we looking for Earth-like planets orbiting sun-like stars? It's because, as Edmund Hillary said, when someone asked him why he climbed Mount Everest, he said, because it's there. And these other stars and planets are there. And though they might be light years away, they are reachable. Within reason, of course. Something within 20 or 25 light years could probably be 1,000 years in getting there. But that is something that still lies in the future and will depend on perhaps some more advanced discoveries that will shorten the time or give us a more economical but yet more sustainable energy source with which to drive ourselves out to those places. But we can see how mankind has progressed in a cultural sense from the very beginning. Going back to these Stone Age tribes that, no perhaps about it, they did occupy the upper reaches of the Amazon, throughout Africa, Australia, and the North American continent, and I guess at one point South America as well, where they were rather primitive and probably poled around on rafts, because rivers were the highways of those times. And then perhaps a dugout canoe, and then someone lashed together a frame and they stretched a hide over it, and it made it watertight, and you had a canoe. Or and then from there, seacraft or watercraft developed. But they aren't much good unless you can go somewhere with them. And well, we have a pretty unique position here that it's a limiting condition that decides or determines how far we can go, and that is sustainability. you might get into a canoe and go paddling up the river, but you might take a picnic basket with you, but it's not going to last very long. So to cut out all the middle arguments, let's just cut to the chase and point out that modern cruise ships are floating cities. The tons of supplies, foodstuffs, and alcohol. To equip one of these things for a 2-week or month-long enterprise requires an awful lot of raw material supplies. So that's it, sustainability. Now, the city of heaven, a celestial ark, would have to be a pretty good sized piece of work in order to maintain an ecological sustainability over the course of perhaps 1,000 years. Such a craft would probably have to be big enough to sustain a population of hundreds of thousands. The Lord's numbered 350,000. 140,000 came to earth eventually. Is the city of heaven still out there somewhere? Probably. We'll probably find it one day. Are there UFOs? Well, probably. If there's, if everything is true up to now, well, we would have a highly sophisticated, technically superlative culture, civilization out there, kind of keeping an eye on things, and I'm sure that they would be able to travel at will throughout the solar system. But it's more than that. I hope that you will see, as we follow this argument, that many of the points will touch on religious teaching or dogma. And I'd like to address one area of that right now, and that is the fallen angels. Now, as I pointed out earlier, the quality of persons, souls, that were to be admitted to the city of heaven had to be of the highest spiritual quality. Christ's, if you will. Because the Christ, as a spiritual model, is the highest attainment any soul can hope to achieve. But then there's something else. We are still animals. And the Christ essence is one that is so highly placed on the spiritual side of human consciousness, soulic demonstration, that the animal nature is suppressed and confined to a very dark and remote area of the animal mind, the back brain, in other words. And the population, in order to guarantee that it is going to be protected from the evils and the temptations of the world, will have to be in an enclosure of some kind with exclusive access. And as an example of that, let's use the vacuum cleaner. Now, it is a fact that nature abhors a vacuum. And there's no possibility of a vacuum to form, because there would be nothing to hold it apart. And let's not forget, energy only wishes to combine with itself. It doesn't separate from itself. It never does. So, if, on the other hand, though, a vacuum is pretty handy for picking up hairballs and grit from the rugs in your house. Well, we call it a vacuum cleaner, only it's not really a vacuum cleaner. It's a low atmospheric pressure cleaner. But you have a motor that pulls the air out of it and creates a partial vacuum. But in order to maintain and sustain that condition, this is going to suck up all the junk, the hairballs and cat fur or whatever, from the rug. It has to be maintained within that enclosure. Same thing. And if we also think back to the information in Revelation, that people of lower character, of lower demonstration, will not be admitted. So it has to be some kind of enclosure. And because this isolated culture would be so totally dependent on all the Christ virtues to be front and center, to underscore their way of life, one of love and community and cooperation and reliability, all the good stuff, all the right stuff. And therefore we could sustain a voyage of 1,000 years. And they are telling us, the Lords are telling us in Revelation, the last 4 chapters, that they have sustained themselves rather well. And that their existence was idealized. The Ark had all the energy it needed, and it had comfortable quarters, it had work for people to do, and it kept them in the Christ frame of mind, free from any temptation. But then what happens when they discover a new world and set down into it? And the Christ reigned for 1,000 years, but that was freedom, and that was in an environment that was free of temptations. But now it's time for this dragon to be loosed another season. Well, now what does that mean? The earth is a very, very violent place. But those of us who are blessed and guided by the Spirit to gentle surroundings and calm waters and blue skies and freedom from care, well, we're not aware of it. And as I pointed out, there are at least a couple dozen of wars that are going on around the world. Look on the internet. There's a site that shows the 25 worst conditions or best conditions, or things that you probably didn't know, or things that you believed that turn out to be false, or things that you didn't believe that turn out to be true. And there's one I just watched a short while ago, and it's the 25 most polluted areas in the world. From chemical dumping into water supplies, garbage and trash and garbage being thrown into the into the rivers. Places of high radiation from nuclear mishaps. And one, Mexico City. It's in a valley around, surrounded by mountains, and it has a perpetual cloud of smog hanging over it. But as I often like to do, I just go sit in the park and just enjoy the peace and serenity. Yet, I know that there are birds out there eating bugs and worms. There are bugs that are consuming microscopic creatures or vegetation. And I know that a duck is paddling along on the pond. When he ducks his head under the water, he's grabbing a minnow or a bug or something to eat. And so it's all predator and prey, big fish, little fish, even littler fish. So the dragon must be loosed another season. So another thing too is that the Earth has what we might call universal conditions. Like paleontology tells us in the earlier Neocene periods and before that the Earth was tropical. It was all like a steaming hot jungle. And every condition of the Earth does prompt some kind of chemical and biological reaction. So I believe that when the time was right, the spirit was right, and the conditions were ideal, that more than one fish crawled up on the land. More than one bird took to the air. More than one antelope evolved into a creature that roams grasslands and plains. But when we get to chapter 6, we find that mankind multiplied and spread across the face of the earth. And this strongly suggests a defined origin. And that origin is explained in Genesis chapter 6. When the sons of God, which are Christ's, saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and took unto themselves such as they chose as wives. That's the evolution. That is the genetic engineering that worked on the female Homo habilis, Homo robustus, or Homo habilis, either side of that dividing line, and produced a woman. It's all there. So now we have to say, well, wait a minute. Here are a bunch of a culture that is Christ, full demonstration, a superlative spiritual quality. So how come we have the world that we're stuck with today? Where does all this evil come from? Well, the fact is that the dragon must be loosed another season. And in nature, there are no straight lines or equal balances. Everything in nature is just out of balance. That's why when you get too many bugs in one place, birds show up. When you get too many birds, then other predators show up. So that the predators and prey always work to keep populations within livable proportions, let's say. But now this is a different story. And there's an old saying that has several contexts in which it could be presented, and that is familiarity breeds contempt. Now, in a sociological standing, we might find a revolutionary movement, something new, and that everyone gets excited about. There's a heat and a passion and an energy that goes into the establishment of this revolutionary new circumstance. Look at communism. Took over in Russia. What was the purpose of it? Was to elevate the worker. Any effort to raise the standards of lower classes, look at the French Revolution. That really got out of hand. But it started out with the oppressed rising up. But whatever the program might be, the future generations don't have that fire. They don't have that spark anymore. It's it's business as usual, and it is in this instance, let's say, or in this condition, that the animal starts to come out again. Well, maybe we'll just steal a little bit. Maybe we'll just capture some people and make them do our bidding for us. Masters and servants. Oh, and this shiny metal. Why, we'll get people to give us all this shiny metal because of our primitive fascination with such things. Or pretty stones that you can see through different colors in the light. There's a lot of temptations, and when we review the 7 deadly sins according to Mohandas Gandhi, if you recall what they are: wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, business without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, and politics without principle. The dragon is indeed loosed for another season, but it is the dragon that is within ourselves. And this is why it is so very, very important that as many people as possible learn, understand, and adopt for themselves the Christ message. Become king of your world. Become the warrior that continually beats down the old Adam. Keep expanding your role as a lover. And as a sorcerer, all that means is just staying in connection with your source, the Father in you, and me, that does the work. So there's going to be more. I'm just trying to keep these into, keep these installments into nice bite-sized little chunks. But there's more, and I hope you'll find it interesting. But I hope that I will be able to transmit to you the reason and the logic that underpins this entire exercise. Until then, have the best day ever. Thank you for coming by. And if I knew you, I'd love you. So who says I have to know you? Love you anyway. And so long.